jibber jab, bamboozle, nuka noozle, bippity bop, she-gall. You jibber jab, bamboozle, nuka noozle, bippity bop, she-gall. I mean, you keep on talking, but you don't know where to turn.
Good evening and welcome. I'm John Caldera, president of the Independence Institute. Well, it's making it to the big screen. Your kid has flunked. That's right, a new documentary coming out from our friends at the Evergreen Freedom Foundation out in Washington State. Steve Maggi is here to talk about it, the executive producer of the program. Glad to have you with us.
Well, great to be here. Looking forward to showing it to the Midwestern audience.
Well, that'll be good. And of course, Pam Benigno from our Education Policy Center at the Independence Institute knows more about what's going on here in Colorado than anybody else I know in education. Because you actually went to school.
I went to school.
It must have been nice. All right, let's talk about this. I find it interesting. Those of us who've been fighting for educational freedom, there are a lot of organizations that put out a lot of good papers, put out a lot of good opinion pieces, have a lot of terrific wonks that talk about why we need to have educational choice, not only inside government education, but outside government education. We've done a fair amount of that here at the Independence Institute as well. But getting that message out is also much more of an emotional message, that statistics are great, but really seeing the faces make a difference. Tell me about this movie you've created called Flunked. Why did you put it out, and why do you think it's going to be effective?
Well, like you say, there's a lot of good papers you could read on what needs to be done and so forth. And quite frankly, some of the people on the opposite side have vilified the word choice. So there's been kind of that hiding that when you hear the word choice, you really mean taking money from the public system and moving it into the private schools. Well, we knew that people didn't realize really how bad the system was, and really, more importantly, the options they have. So we decided to go out and not only talk about the problems, which we do, but more importantly, find people and schools that are making the changes necessary today, succeeding now without any extra money, with maybe just a little less red tape, and showing what can be done. So we decided it would be really important to people to see that, yeah, there really is something that can be done, but you got to know what's available in the first place.
And Flunk's done that. And we've done that at the Independence Institute. When I say we, I really mean you, but I want to take credit for your work. Things like the schoolchoiceforkids.org website, it's a different way on a ground up to give people some empowerment to find out about their choices inside government schools.
Well, that's right. We have a great website that parents can search using their address and find maybe a Montessori school, back to basic school, whatever type of school that they want. But before that, the Independence Institute started the school report card system that the state later adopted. And that's very important too, because that made parents aware of how the schools were really performing.
See, we see that as kind of the natural progression of the movie Flunked. Once people realize there are options out there and so forth, what great thing but to have a tool like that they can go to and see where they're at right now, what options they had. Chances are they didn't realize there's a lot of these options out there, and then also realize what isn't available to them that they need to go and scream for to make sure that they have as many options as they can.
Yeah, in Colorado we have open enrollment, so not every state that you're in has the advantages that we do. No. But parents can choose a school in their school district or go outside of their school district, and so our website opens up all of the schools in the entire state for parents to see what's available to them.
That's schoolchoiceforkids.org, schoolchoiceforkids.org. It's a great, incredible tool for folks. But let me talk a little bit about the movie. You start off with some great clips that I like, and it's just so. Oh, I don't know what to put it. It's so prophetic to see politician after politician, president after president talk about education. When you roll those clips, what's the theme?
It all goes back to Sputnik. You know, when Sputnik hit, it was, oh my gosh, the Russians are bombed. What are we going to do? Our guys aren't doing well in math and science. We got to build it up. So the situation goes the same way. Let's put together a blue ribbon committee and let's put more money into education. And then as you follow these presidential clips, you realize that Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal, they're all saying basically the same thing. And what we find in the success stories is they got it all wrong. The successes and the changing in public education that everybody wants isn't going to come from the top down, from big father government. Instead, it's going to go from the bottom up. The changes like what you're doing here in Colorado. I mean, you know, you may be frustrated sometimes with what you have in Colorado, but trust me, up in Washington, we would love to have the options available in this state.
Well, let's talk about the presidents, because I love that. Every single president, every single governor pledges more money for education. And you're right, it is Republican and Democrat to even see someone who is a hero to me, of Ronald Reagan, talking about, well, we need more control. This presidency is going to really mean more for education. We're going to put more money in. You see George W. Bush with, I think, a terrible program called No Child Left Behind, where we start to get the national government involved in local politics. I'm waiting for a president to stand up there and go, you know, we need to get the hell out of education. This is not a federal issue. This is a local issue. I have a feeling I'm going to be a while before I hear that.
Yeah, I think so too, because nobody wants to be against the kids. And that's the way it's always faced. It's like, well, we're for the kids, and the way you're for the kids by putting more money into education. But again, we look at these success stories, and each one of these cases where they took a school that had been failing 10, 20, 30 years, came in, changed it overnight, they did it with actually less money, because most of them were charter schools, and they actually get less money, not getting any of the levy money that the traditional public school gets.
Before we talk about some of the success stories that you highlight in the movie Flunked, let's talk a little bit about Colorado. And you're right, compared to others, thanks to a lot of the work of our predecessors at Independence, we do have some choice inside government education. We have open enrollment, we have charter schools, we've got the school report card system. All this is good steps. Coming from that theme of the bottom up, give me some of the success stories here in Colorado that bubble up from the bottom.
Well, you definitely can look at our charter movement here, and if we're just going to talk a moment about the schools that are high poverty, high minority rates in the schools, you can look at KIPP Sunshine Academy. There's Cesar Chavez in Pueblo. Those are two examples. West Denver Prep is another one where a family, it was just recently reported, where parents were sitting in line with to put their children in the lottery, and they were fearful if their child's name wasn't selected, what was going to happen to their child. And when they won, they cried. It was very emotional.
I have seen films of this where inner city families are waiting there at a lottery, and it's almost as if they've got refugee status. And once their number is called out, they begin to cry because their kids have an opportunity they didn't have before. They get to go to a better school. And when you mention those schools that you just did, what's special about them? For those people who don't follow this, what's different about the schools you just mentioned than an ordinary neighborhood inner city school?
Well, those three particular schools are structured. They have very high expectations. The culture in the school expects a lot from the kids. They have rigorous curriculum. They don't mess around. They're going to have results, and they do it. And I think that comes out in your film as well as being something.
Steve, give me one example that you illustrate in the film. What's one of the better examples of, we talk about the top-down approach seems to continue to fail decade after decade after decade. The president comes up, the governor comes up, politicians come up. We need more money. We need more money. Give me an example of a school that didn't use more money but actually got somewhere.
Well, one of our favorite people, one of the people that just shines off the screen, he's just really magnetic that way, is Ben Chavis of the Oakland Public American Indian Charter Schools. It's got a big, long name, and they've been failing for generations. I mean,
this is a government school, right?
Oh, absolutely.
This is not a private academy. This is not some hoity-toity Kent Academy. This is a public school
Absolutely.
that gets public dollars.
Well, and for years it had been failing to the point that they were going to close it, and they bring in this guy, and he wants to take one shot at it. So he decides, all right, this is all nonsense. He goes, there was a lot of politically correct rules. Literally, well, he said, for example, they used to sit around in circles. And as he says in the movie, they've been watching too many John Wayne movies. He goes, Indians don't sit in circles. We need to learn math and English. So he gets these kids together. Mind you, same kids that have been failing miserably. Same group, drawing from the same area. Comes in, puts them in uniform, actually goes out, challenges the kids to show up and offers to pay them if they show up every day for a full year. Then goes out and sees the drug dealer and says, hey, if you see one of my kids out here, I'll give you $5 if you bring them back. He gets them into school. He said the first thing you got to get them into school. They weren't even coming to school.
So, wait a second. This guy is actually paying kids to go to school.
Absolutely.
They come in, here's $1, here's $5.
Absolutely.
You showed up, here's some money.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this place is you walk in there, the class, you always hear about we need smaller classes. His classes have 50, 60 in a class. Silent. They are working in there. You don't hear a sound drop. What he's done is he has convinced those kids that, hey, your way out here, you could go and sell drugs and do that, you could go end up in jail, you could get shot,